Hi and welcome to the Gear class. You guys remember what the Gear class used to be? Remember how when I used to live in Safed and every week a new Gear class would come out? Remember those good old days? 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. I miss those days. And then I moved to Modine and I went and visited Jacques a couple times. And then I visited America a couple times. And we're getting ready to go back to America. And you saw over the last summer, fall, we were doing the classes at the wall. I'm a poet and I don't know it. And then it got freezing cold in the winter. And we stopped doing the wall classes. And then we went and visited Jacques. And here we are. The time changed. Purim passed. Pesach's coming up. The website's on its way. And we got to figure out where we're gonna focus on the good weather. Am I gonna go back to the wall and recruit another film man? Are we gonna go back to Gear classes? And if that happens, would it be in Modine at the wall? I don't know. It's we got a lot of good options. Too bad Noni's not here. But thank God the weather changed, time changed. It's not freezing, so whatever it's worth, I've missed the Gear classes. I hope you've missed the Gear classes. And we have a lot of Gear material to go over. You guys saw the article today? I was looking through my notes. Yeah. So I think you can see by the new blog articles that Gear is alive and well. It's getting much tighter, much stronger, clearly articulated. Not that there was a problem before. My intentions in when I say like strengthening the argument or giving Gear classes, I listen to my critics because they don't have free will, my critics. They are echoing what their superiors have told them, and their superiors are not against me either. It's that if you ask the question wrong, you'll get a wrong answer. So if you were to ask me, Rabbi Katz, is there a Ger Toshav today? The answer is no, because chances are you're thinking in that question, is there a Ger Toshav according to Jubilee today? Well, how can there be a Ger Toshav Jubilee if it's not a Jubilee? You understand the problem? So everyone's going and asking their rabbis, well, Rabbi Katz said there's a Ger Toshav today. No, Rabbi Katz never said that, at least not in the terms that you're asking your rabbi. You're asking your rabbi this or that. Is there or is there not? Everyone is going to quote to you Erechim 29 and the Rambam, who copies and pastes from there. And no, there's no Ger Toshav today according to Jubilee, right? And this is where we're going to focus on the first of these new Ger lessons. And this is a little bit different than Dinim, but I might cover some of these in Dinim, right? We have 12 topics of Ger that really need to get out into the world. And I will cover them either in the classes that we do before the website is launched, or in my blog, or in Dinim, or in some other way, like if we redo the Wall series, whatever it is, I'm ready to come out with just more refined Ger message Torah. You got that? And it doesn't change, right? From the very first day I ever taught Ger, I never said there was a Ger Toshav Jubilee. Again, the more you listen to what people are saying and getting wrong, it allows me to express it more right. Because you understand where people are tripping up in their thought process and then they're vocalizing this thing, and it allows me to express it more clearly, right? We are not changing our tune. The tune has never changed. That's why I'm also copying and pasting from the sources. That's how Torah is done. But my job is to be able to put that in English clearly that everyone can get the message. Type 1 or 2. And like I said, I hope that the blog is helping people articulate and wrap their mind around this. The Soloveitchik work is available. You should contact Jacques or Russell. The problem with the Soloveitchik work is people are saying it's too hard, and we made it hard, right? Our job was to not change the language, even though it's in English, to capture the originality of Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik that proves there's Ger Toshav today, Jock Type 1. So the new book coming out will be an easier read of the same material with rabbinic backing, so not to worry. Strong rabbinic backing. And that book hopefully will be an easier read. And each one of these steps is necessary. It was necessary to have YouTube going. It was necessary to write The World of the Ger. It was necessary to write the Soloveitchik work. And everything we do is addressing a certain audience and crowd. The new book coming out is meant to address the fringe rabbis. The Soloveitchik work is meant to address the learned rabbis. World of the Ger is meant to address non-Jews. Pretty much the Noahide world looking to grow in Noahide. People coming out of the church, I'm not a counter missionary. That's not my field. I'm not there to tell them that Jesus doesn't matter. We have Tovia and Michael for that. Bless their hearts. I'm talking to Jews. I don't know if I have that book written yet. Maybe this new book will be for the layman Jew. Rivka Adler has done a lot of work coming around these circles. I know she's kind of in my head about who I'm addressing and what audience. So, look, there's a lot of different audiences, and we're trying to get material to everybody. And the more Jews that get involved, rabbis, then the more the content can go out. I'm not creating content. What I'm doing is not repackaging. How do you say that? Taking it from the Hebrew and taking it into English and distributing it. So it's not a matter of who agrees with Rabbi Katz. Rabbi Katz is not a new movement. I'm not even a movement. I teach like 3 people every week, right? And the videos go up on YouTube. So it's not a movement. And Ger Toshav has been around for thousands of years. This is not new. What is new is the internet. That's new. And non-Jews leaving the church in the internet era. That's new. And those non-Jews researching the truth, which is happening in record numbers. I think we can all agree on that, type 1. And I've always said, when the Nazarites stand up in Antarctica, I'm done with you guys, right? Type 1. I'm going to go and be excited and open up the tractate Nazir, and I'm going to go learn Nazir. And I'm going to teach the laws of Nazir to the Nazarites of Antarctica. Are you with me? Are you guys going to go with me to Antarctica and teach the Nazarites? Yeah, we're going to go do that. Ger got their message and their Ger, and we're going to go talk to the Nazarites. So that's the analogy, right? I didn't plan on Noahide rejecting Shituf, them asking, can we keep Shabbos, and who and what are we? Type 1. If the Noahide Vendel Jones world would have stayed in 7 go to heaven, then no one would have ever asked me, Rabbi Katz, can we keep Shabbos? The answer is no. A goy to keep Shabbos is chayav misa. So if that would have been the answer, that would have been the end of it. Type 1. I mean, let's be real, people, right? You give the Torah to whoever needs it. And you have a bunch of people saying that they reject Shituf. Should I call you something other than what you're called? Should we dig out the Torah other than what it is? So it's not new. What is new, as we've said, is a one-off in history where probably at this point millions of people are looking to reject Shituf. Is that a true statement, or did I just make that up? You tell me. You're out in the field. I'm over here in Israel. What I'm getting back, echoing into my computer, is that there are people out there all over the world that are interested in rejecting Shituf, and they just don't yet know how. Or if they do know how and have done it, they are receiving abuse saying that they're not allowed to reject Shituf, or they don't know what Shituf is to reject it. Am I off on this? Am I making this up and like brainwashing people, or is this really what's happening? You tell me. If I make it up, I take it back. I am sorry for wasting your time and mine. But it appears to me that this is what is happening. There are a lot of people that want to reject Shituf. One or two. All right, there you're typing one. So, Jacques, you really think that you know what Shituf is enough to reject it? You really think you know that? That you want to reject Shituf? And you know what it means to reject Shituf? You think so? All right. And there's more like you? You really think there's more like you? You really think Justin Becker agrees with you? And you guys don't even know each other. All right. And you think the Torah that I'm teaching you caters to that? How to reject Shituf and what it means to reject Shituf? And it comes from an authentic source? And it's not new and made up? It's not from the Midrash and the Sanhedrin, as those who want to say it like that, right? Or is it coming from authentic source? You know, even those people that say that Midrash and the Sanhedrin, they say that Chazal is a representation of the Sanhedrin. Is that true? Avodah Zorah 64b, is that kosher Talmud? Then those people want to say, but we can't understand Avodah Zorah 64b. It's a machlekes. Is it really a machlekes? Is it really the three opinions of Ezehu Ger Taishiv? Who's a Ger Taishiv? Is that a machlekes? Some might think it's a machlekes, but I'm here today in our class that we're having tonight, and then we're going to check this off on our little list of things, the 12 things we have to cover. And here we go. Ready? Let's back off of Avodah Zorah 64b, and let's follow the Oral Torah through. You guys believe in the Oral Torah? Yes or no? So the Ger, let's call it, just to upset people, let's call it the Ger movement, even though it's not a movement. If there is a Ger movement, Jacques, is it safe to say that Ger is driven by the Oral Torah, the Torah Shabbal Peh? Is that a true statement? Or are we some kind of Karaite, neo, blah, blah, blah? Or does Ger claim to be classic yeshivish oral Torah? Not David Katzism or Midrashism or Sanhedrinism, but Torah Shabbal Peh. Yes? All right. So then let's start this little exercise. In Avodah Zorah 64b, there's an apparent machlokes. Ezehu Ger Toshav, who's a Ger Toshav? Three opinions. Mekabel Atzmo accepts upon himself to reject Avodah Zorah before three men. The 7 laws is the second opinion, and all the Torah laws except for he still eats nevela. Right? And there are those that believe in this whole Sanhedrin, you know who you are. I like to make fun of those people that want to say it's a machlekes, and it's not a machlekes. Now, when you look on a page of Talmud and Avodah Zorah 64b, let's do that. Ready? Let's look in Avodah Zorah 64b. Because we look it up, don't we, Jacques? We quote sources, we look it up, we don't get it wrong, we take pride in our work, we serve the Lord. Avodah Zorah 64b. And it says, oh, look at that, the halacha. Kol shekibel alav sheva mitzvahs shekibel aleim b'nei nayach. And it takes you to halacha hey. Rambam there. Chapter 10, halacha 6. And where is there? The laws of Akum. The laws of Akum. So in that law, it says we don't receive Gerim except for the time of Yovel. Now you would say, so we got Rabbi Katz. So, see, there's no law of Ger Toshav, right? Then there's a footnote there that says to look on 65a. And when we look at 65a, and it says, who's a ger toshav? And it says, look at 64b. And on 65a, it wants to know about the mitzvah l'chiyuso, sustaining the ger, and all of our things. And there's another sign here. 1 second, where does that take us to? And he says, look in the Sanhedrin about the ger toshav there. Now, most people will not go look up the Be'er Sheva in Sanhedrin 96b. And what Rashi says there. I'll even make a little challenge. Well, the people that have issues with ger, go look it up. What do you think they will do? Will they look it up? Will they go look up the Be'er Sheva and quote to me the Be'er Sheva? Let's see if they can do that. In the meantime, let's look up Sanhedrin 96b. Don't think that I have ignored the fact that we said there's no ger toshav in this halacha. Oh, no, we did not ignore that. Ger toshav. Shelo kibel alav shar mitzvahs the kibel alav shelo levadav choifin. That he did not accept on himself the rest of mitzvahs, but he did accept upon himself not to serve idols. There's your Rashi avodas in Sanhedrin 96b. So does the word kabel mean accept? Like, yeah. Today I'm not doing idols, thank God. Or is it proper Kabbalah? So when it says Shalom Kibel Alav, is he saying that he did not make a Kabbalah on the rest of mitzvahs, but he did make a Kabbalah that he shouldn't serve idols? Hey, that sounds like Avodah Zarah 64b, Jacques. Which one do you think it is, Jacques? Did he make a Kabbalah? So therefore, 64b is saying that there's a Kabbalah on not to serve idols, but the halacha said there's 7 mitzvahs. So which one is it? Is the halacha 7 mitzvahs, or is the halacha not to serve idols? The ger toshav of 7 mitzvahs is of the Jubilee, and that's why Rambam paskins, there's no ger toshav today. And why is there not a sign of halacha by the aspect of Kabbalah? Because that is not where the Rambam wants to paskin by. Because that would assume a certain level of based in Kabbalah, which we don't have today. Does that mean the Rambam didn't speak about it? Let's go weiter and find out. We need to see Krisis 9a. Hey, have you ever heard me talk about Krisis 9a? Has anyone ever heard me speak about Krisis 9a? Let's read Krisis 9a. Krisis 9a, Krisis 9a, Krisis 9a. Look at this. Ger Toshav. And there's a halacha. Wow. And where's the halacha? Rambam chapter 10, halachas avodah zorah, halacha 6. There it is again. So we have the Rambam saying that the ger toshav doesn't exist today. And he's taking you to the laws of akum. And that is not a problem. Why is that not a problem? Because the Rambam exists in other places. And now we are into the stage of the Rambam. Are you following the trail? Are you following the trail? We started with the classic ger toshav, correct? Avodah Zorah 64b. We went to Krisis 9a. And we mentioned in Sanhedrin that brings us to the opinion that we don't paskin by. Okay. Now, at this point, is this Oral Torah? Is this the Talmud over to the Rambam? We looked up the Rambam, and he said there's no ger toshav today. But then we know to look in the Laws of Shabbos 2014. How do we know that, Jacques? How do we know that, Rambam? Because where do we find the ger toshav in the laws that are applicable today? The answer is the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim 304, 1, 2, and 3. That says you are not allowed to work your ger toshav. So the Shulchan Aruch mentions the Ger Toshav when the Shulchan Aruch is getting that from Krisis 9a. So apparently something from Krisis 9a made it into the halacha. And guess where the wording of the Shulchan Aruch came from in its halacha that is binding by all Jewish people in the Shulchan Aruch? And guess any takers? The language of the Shulchan Aruch in 304 by Ger Toshav. Where did Yosef Karo, Rabbi Yosef Karo the Mechaber, where did he get the language from? The answer is the Rambam. Thank you. So the Rambam, where did the Rambam get it from? Because the Rambam said there's no Ger Toshav today. That would be a Jubilee Ger Toshav. Well, the Rambam is quoted from chapter 20, halacha 14. Kashem sha'adam mitzava al shvisas behemaso b'shabbos kachu mitzava al shvisas avdo v'amaso afal pishem b'nei dasel das ha'atzmin oizim mitzvah Allah v'shmarim l'man mesiyas meloch b'shabbos shinem alaman yenuah v'shokah b'chor cholav v'yimesh v'secha v'agir Evid v'am ha'shanim mitzvoyin al shvisas hey avadim shemalu v'adavu v'shem avdus v'kibru mitzvahs Shavadi Mikayevin Ben Avalavadi Shalom Alavaladavu Ela Kibu Alayan Shevad Mitzvahs Benei Nayech Bilvad Harihen Kagir Taishav Umutrilasus Malacha Bashavis La Atzmin Bifarhesia Yisrael Bachol. A long way of saying the 10 Commandments 2010 rest your gear, but there's no Ger Toshav today. The Rambam tells you here too, V'ein makabling ger toshav ela b'zman sheyovel noeg. So guess what? In the laws of Shabbos, the ger toshav doesn't exist today. So far, so good, correct? So far, so good. The skeptics are correct. The Rambam mentions ger toshav, and each time he'll tell you there's no ger toshav. But we're going to continue. Hayil. The same halacha, v'ger toishav ha'yisim halacha la'atzmo, b'shabbos v'ger tzedek har yoga Yisrael l'chol davar. B'min emar v'yinavash b'min avasecha v'agir ze ger toishav shulakito v'schiro sh'Yisrael kamo ben avasoyi. Shalo yasam halacha l'Yisrael rabba b'shabbos aval atzmo oisik. V'afilu hayin ze agir avdo hari ze oisik la'atzmo. The Rambam is saying that anybody that can do malacha for a Jew is like a ger toshav, and they're considered to be a worker, and that worker cannot do work for a Jew on Shabbos. That means the Shabbos of this, like a ger toshav, is not the same Shabbos as the covenant of Israel, but this is how Rashi explains in Yavamis 48b. Chuck, did I say 48b? Is that one of our famous ger sugyas? Let's find out and go to 48b. Well, we're 3/4 out of the way of all the main sugyas. How in the world is that possible? Look at Rashi, ger toshav. Shekibel alav shalol avoid avoidis kochlim. He has a Kabbalah not to accept to be an Akum. And he eats the velas. And the Torah warns him on Shabbos lest he desecrate Shabbos like an Akum. So now we have intertwined all three opinions in Avodah Zorah 64b. Is a ger toshav not serving idols, keeping the 7 laws, or eating the vela? Is it a machlokis or 3 different aspects? By the way, Rashi here is the halacha. And you'll say, but the Sanhedrin and the Midrash and the Zohar and the Smurfs and Gargamel don't paskin this way. But guess what? Rashi is the halacha here. He is the halacha, and Rashi is quoting a known shita, namely the Rashba. The Rashba brings down the shita extracted from Krisis 9a, and Krisis 9a is Chazal. Are there many ways of taking Krisis 9a? Yes, there are. It can have more than one meaning and one usage at any time. Are all of the sages in unison here? Yes, they are. Rashi is saying that for a ger toshav, whatever a ger toshav is, To work for a Jew is like doing idolatry. So when a Ger Toshav has Kabbalah on at least to not serve idols, that's called rejecting Shituv, he takes on his mitzvahs as the Jews were commanded at Sinai, and for him to work for a Jew is like idolatry. So the non-Jew who has rejected Shituv and is not a Shabbos goy is performing the mitzvah, not serving idols, on a day that is known to be the Shabbat of Israel. And he is celebrating so much that there is not another God. Today is the day of God. One or two. We don't mean gods here. We're talking in confirmation and non-confirmation. All right. So what we've done is we've done the Rishonim. And the Rishonim are bringing you the Chazal. And there's something called Deya, a logical thread of halacha that extends from Sinai and Moshe through all the way through the Oral Torah, through the Chazal that was instituted many, many moons earlier by, as our good friend likes to say, the Sanhedrin. And guess what, boys and girls? Midrash and halacha has nothing to do with this. The world of the Ger does contain Midrash and halacha. Why? Because that is the function of Midrash and Midrash and Agaritas, all right? It is interesting. It is a Kabbalistic historical perspective. Is it to be taken literal in every case? No. As the famous cliche goes, so if you believe every Midrash, you're an idiot, but if you deny every Midrash, you're also an idiot. The Torah is meant to be understood and comprehended and to be accentuate the mashal and the nimshal, the point and lesson involved. Adam receiving the Torah from the angel Raziel, Al-Pi Kabbalah. What that looked like in real time, maybe Adam got an email. I don't know. I wasn't there to see what manifestation the angel Raziel was in when Adam became an enlightened soul. Whatever it means in the upper heavenly spheres, the angel Raziel gave the Torah to Adam. Again, what that looked like in the world of Asiya, our physical world, I don't know. I wasn't there. And we're not trying to say what it looked like in Asiya. The Midrash and Agarata there is conveying the spiritual truth that emanated down the Ishtalshalis of Mazel Elyon to Mazel Tachton, type 1. Now, in terms of halacha and Ger Toshav and following the Rambam is a Rishon, Rashi is a Rishon. Apparently, they both have derived their halachas from Krisis 9a. Krisis 9a is related to Yavamas 48b, is related to Avodah Zorah 64b. And in Avodah Zorah 64b, we have the three opinions. And they're not arguing. It seems that the 7 laws is a Ger Toshav in Jubilee, type 1. Then there's something called Nevela, which the Rambam didn't mention here. And there's something called Kabbalah on serving idols, which the Rambam didn't paskin on, at least where we've seen it. But then when we look in the Rambam, in Hilchos Malachim, chapter 8, halachas 10 and 11, he talks about Kabbalah and rejecting idols, and it's the same way in Isuri Bia 14, 7, and 8. Let's then get the Rambam in Isuri Bia 14, 7, and 8. We've already mentioned the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, and that the Shulchan Aruch takes on the language of the Rambam, and that there is the Rashi opinion of how to keep Shabbos like a Ger Toshav taken from Krisis 9a. Why does it go around in circles? Because they're all cutting and copying and pasting from the same sources. So when we have Isuri Bia 14:7, the source Ezehu Ger Toshav, Rambam's quoting for you, Avodah Zorah 64b. Who's a Ger Toshav? He that takes a Kabbalah, Kabbalah, and we don't mean Zohar, not to serve idols with the rest of the mitzvahs. He's not circumcising or mikvaing, and he is mekablin. This is mekablin him. He is effective with this. And what does it mean? Is he a Jubilee mekablin Jacques? He can't be a Jubilee win. How do we know that? Because the Rambam says he is from the Chasidi Omos Ha'olam. By definition, that cannot be Jubilee. And then why do we call his name Ger Toshav if he's not a real Ger Toshav? He's allowed to live in Israel. He's allowed to. He doesn't have to. And Rambam says, look in the laws of Avodah Zorah. What does it mean? We don't accept a Ger Toshav except for times of Jubilee. That means you can't just go to Israel and be all Jubileed and Israeled up except for in time of Jubilee as a Ger Toshav. That doesn't negate that you have Kabbalah. The very next halacha, Ein Makablan Ger Toshav Ela B'Zman Yovo Noyeg. The laws of Avodah Zorah, he brings very next halacha saying the same thing. If you're going to be a Ger Toshav Jubilee, it's got to be in the time of Jubilee. Now our question becomes, where does the Rambam get this information? And we see that who's a Ger Toshav? He's bringing you from the laws of Avodah Hilchos Melachim, chapter 8, halacha 10. How about that? And he says, look in Yevamos 48b. And very interesting. So the references of the Rambam are telling you Yevamos 48b and our famous Hilchos Melachim, chapter 8, halacha 10, which we're going to go to now. Ready? Notice that the Rambam in Asuri Bia did not take us to Avodah Zorah 64b, where the Rambam said there's no Ger Toshav today, correct? He's sending us to Hilchos Melachim. And by the way, I do have a point in what I'm getting at. Hilchos Melachim, chapter 8, halacha 10, Moshe Rabbeinu. And we're going to skip this part because we already did this a couple classes ago. Let's get to our main part. Ready? Ready. Moshe Rabbeinu was commanded by God to press everybody to accept or to have a Kabbalah of all the mitzvahs commanded by Noach, and all that do not take Kabbalah are killed. And the one who has Kabbalah of them is called Ger Toshav in every place. And he needs to have Kabbalah before 3 men. And all who have Kabbalah, blah, 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 it goes on to something that is not negated to this, next halacha. All who have Kabbalah, the 7 mitzvahs, and are careful to do them. Harizem Chasidim Olam, he has Olam Haba. For our Sanhedrin people, here's the Rambam saying he has Olam Haba. The Rav Soloveitchik where it concludes with the same thing. No one disputes this. Those that have the Olam Haba have to have accepted the 7 laws with Kabbalah as prescribed by the Torah Moshe Rabbeinu. But if he does it by his own volition, he is not Ger Toshav, and he is not from the Chasidim Olam, rather he's from their wise men. Now what's interesting, the Rambam says here, Ger Toshav, before 3 men. Remember that? Where did the Rambam get that from, Jacques? Ger Toshav, by having Kabbalah before 3 men. Remember Avodah Zorah 64b? Everyone type 1. And we said that Rambam paskins by the 7 laws, correct? Type 1. But what about the first opinion, Mr. Sanhedrin? We have Ezu Ger Toshav. Who's a Ger Toshav? All who take Kabbalah before 3 men, not to serve idols. Well, are you telling me that the Rambam paskins by not only the 7 laws for Ger Toshav at the time of Jubilee, but the first opinion has nothing to do with Jubilee? Notice that the Gemara here never spoke about Jubilee, and in Hilchos Melachim, about being a proper Noahide with Kabbalah, the Rambam quotes and copies and pastes from Avodah Zorah 64b. What do you think about that? And the Sanhedrin quote takes us and says the same thing by Rashi, and it's reiterated on the next page. What do you think? 1 or 2? With me? Are you with me? 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. Jacques, hello. Justin, hello. All right. So what we have seen is that the Rambam is consistent. What we have seen is that Chazal is consistent. What we have seen is it is a very vast halachic system. What we have seen is it is operated by classic oral Torah. What we have seen is Midrash and Agadata have nothing to do with it. What we have seen is this is not the subject of the world of the Ger. What we have seen is this is the subject of the Soloveitchik work. The world of the Ger is a different genre of Torah. It is not meant to be halachic. It is meant to be midrashic and agaditic. The function of that is to understand and appreciate the higher levels of Ger through history of Gerim and their spirituality. I believe Rabbi Chaim Korfin wrote that and stipulated that on the first couple pages. We have more than enough halachic backing and references to support and suggest where the Ger Toshav exists. And that's where we're at now in this discussion. So we have gone back and forth through the Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, Chazal, and the Talmud, other Rishonim, and Achronim, and understand all in accordance with the Oral Torah and the systems that it employs without getting creative and making up new systems, abiding by the same principles that every yeshiva in the world learns by, and we are having an outcome of the Rambam Hilchos Malachim chapter 8, Halachos 10 11. There is a Ger Toshav today, identified by the first opinion in Avodah Zarah 64b. A non-Jew with Kabbalah, not to serve idols, rejecting Shituf, is called Ger Toshav. In fact, I want to look up one more thing. I may have just thought of something very interesting. Jacques, I found it. Type 1. So I posted the blog post today, and I found a good source. Right? We all know the answer is don't say that I am a Ger Toshav. Say I am to be considered like a Ger Toshav. Correct? All right. Don't say I am a Ger Toshav. Say I have the name Ger Toshav, or whatever words you want to put in there. Ready? Look at what the Rambam says. This is hot. And the one who has Kabbalah of them, i.e. the mitzvahs, specifically Avodah Zarah, rejecting Shituf, type 1. He is called Ger Toshav in every place. Jacques, is he a Ger Toshav, or is he called Ger Toshav? Is that not? That is the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed the answer in the Rambam. The Rambam says Ger Toshav is the time of Yovel. Being called Ger Toshav is something different. Then we had in Surah Bia 14:7, and if I remember correctly, why is a Ger Toshav Chassidim Olam? And look, Jacques, Lama Nikra Shemo Toshav. Why do we call his name Toshav? Jacques, is he a Ger Toshav? Or is the Rambam asking, why is his name called Ger Toshav or Toshav? And then in the next halacha, Ve'ein Makablin Ger Toshav. Big difference. One is a person, the other one is a name called. Big difference. And that's what the Rambam is saying. And this is what everyone's saying. A non-Jew at any time and place can choose to reject Avodah Zarah and Shituf with Kabbalah. And if he does so, he is called Ger Toshav. He is called Ger Toshav. And then why is he, okay, biblically it's called Ger. But why is he called Toshav? Because he's allowed to live in Israel. And even the Rambam would agree with that. He is allowed. The Maggid Mishnah there agrees he's allowed. That is not the same as he is a Ger Toshav. Ger Toshav is Makablin. We make you do certain things when you accept properly Makablin the 7 laws, which is why the Rambam paskins that. That halacha is only noeg bisman yovel noeg, the time of Jubilee. Big difference, and I am a Ger Toshav, and now you have to treat me like one. And what you do between you and God, that you are called Ger Toshav. Big difference. Are you with me? What we then have, and this is the main thrust of the class today, there's no machlokis on Ger Toshav. What we do have is many, many, many views from kosher sources that are describing different elements of Ger Toshav. So when a rabbi says there's no Ger Toshav till Jubilee, and another rabbi says he has Kabbalah, he is called Ger Toshav. Jacques, are those two rabbis arguing? Is that a machlokis? It is not a machlokis. One is simply stating a fact. The Jubilee Ger Toshav doesn't exist today. The other rabbi is saying a non-Jew with Kabbalah is called Ger Toshav. Different angles, different views, different worlds. And the main hubs of Ger Toshav, Avodah Zorah, 64b, etc., is like a super conscious position where you can extract all the different levels of Ger. Some Ger will convert, some Ger are Jubilee, some Ger have Kabbalah, some Ger have a different Kabbalah. Then you'll say, but we don't know if they can take a Kabbalah that gives them anything today. Okay, there are rabbis that discuss should they have that Kabbalah and should they not. And you'll say, you know what? I'm not on the level to know if Jacques can have a Kabbalah that mandates me to give him my dead steak. Right? I don't know. But if you take the lowest common denominator, and this is how the Rambam goes, and everybody goes, and no one argues. If Jacques stands up and says, I, Jacques, have rejected Avodah Zorah in Shituf, and I take on my mitzvahs like a Jew at Sinai, Jacques, are you a Ger Toshav? No, you are not a Ger Toshav. Are you called Ger Toshav? Some would say in the name of Ger Toshav. Some would say in the din of Ger Toshav. Some would say in the geder of Ger Toshav. Some would say a ben Noach kosher. Some would call him a ben Noach. It's all the same terms. When Rambam calls you a ben Noach there, Hilchos Malachim 10:10, it means he is a ben Noach and not a proper Ger Toshav. When we call him a ben Noach kosher by some sources, which is to say a difference from a regular ben Noach. When he's called Ger Toshav, he is called Ger Toshav. And then the Rambam says why he's called Toshav. Is it confusing? Yes. Why is it confusing? Because everyone copies and pastes from the Chazal. Why did Chazal make it confusing? Because last time I checked, the Talmud is confusing. It's a very terse language. It's not meant to write out every little thing. That's why it's called the Oral Torah. The Ger world is has largely remained oral. Even though it's largely written, to understand the written, it is largely oral. So there's no machlokes. What you have is, there is a machlokes, but it's not the machlokes that they say that there is. The machlokes is one and simple. And this is the laws of Brisk. Rambam says there's no Ger Toshav till Yovel. Rambam says with Kabbalah, you're Ger Toshav. Forget what I said about you're called Ger Toshav, even though that's the answer. The machlokes that exists today. Does Rambam subscribe to Tzvei Dinim, or is Rambam Pashut? When Rambam says Ger Toshav, is he saying a rose is a rose is a rose? There's no Ger Toshav today. So when I talk about Ger Toshav as if it's practical, I'm just joshing you. There's no Ger Toshav today. That's one example of our friends that pronounce Sanhedrin like Sanhedrin. Then there's something called Tzvei Dinim and Brisk. Tzvei Dinim says there are two aspects, or two dinim, or two types of Ger Toshav. One type of Ger Toshav is Jubilee, and he doesn't exist today. It's Surah Biyah 14:8. And there's another Ger Toshav that does exist today. Hilchos Melachim 8, 10, and 11. And the skeptics will say, but 10 and 11 is talking also about a Ger Toshav of Jubilee, and therefore doesn't exist today. And they don't recognize the Shitas Brisk of Tzvei Dinim. And then there are those that say, but Tzvei Dinim of Brisk, there's two Ger Toshavs. The bottom line is, we have to deal with replacement theology. How many of you have ever heard of replacement theology? We've all settled on the Rambam because the Rambam was diligent to copy and paste from the Talmud. No Ger Toshav until Jubilee, right? So let's forget about the Rambam. Let's go to Erechin 29. There's no Ger Toshav till Jubilee. Let's assume that the author of Erechin was a rabbi. Can we assume that? He was a rabbi. And there have been rabbis since Sinai. One or two. I'm a rabbi. Vilna Gaon was a rabbi. Moshe Feinstein was a rabbi. In the 90s, there were rabbis. In the 80s, there were rabbis. And the Torah has gone out from Sinai, and it continues to go out. Correct? So there's something called Kabbalah. And I'm talking about Zohar mystical Kabbalah. Type 1. And we have books of Kabbalah today. And even though I don't think that the way that my books are written Kabbalah today is the exact same format that Moses taught Joshua. Obviously, Moses taught Joshua on a much higher level that I'm learning from some book, right? But if Kabbalah is true, and if I learn the Kabbalah on some topic, let's say Pirkei Avos, the first halacha there, okay? I learned the Kabbalah of the Zohar that said, woo, spooky dookie, wah, 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 type 1. And I went and I gave a mystical lesson on Pirkei Avos, type 1. You could say, but Rabbi Katz, that's not the same level of revelation as it was taught to Joshua. Okay, I agree. But if it's true that there is a Kabbalah there, did Moses teach Kabbalah to Joshua? Yes. Right? We do know that Kabbalah is part of the Torah. So in every generation, the Kabbalah would be taught. Now, I might not be good at Kabbalah, but at least I know that it exists. So then let's look at Ger Toshav, shall we? Erechin, written by a rabbi. Ger Toshav and a Jubilee. Did the writers of Erechin have in mind one kind of Ger Toshav? Or more than one kind of Ger Toshav? It's almost like saying, is the Talmud Hasidic or Litvish? Of course, the lit fox would say, well, Rav Ashi, the author of the Talmud, he was like Moshe Feinstein. And the Lubavitchers would say, no, he was like the Rebbe of Lubavitch. And everyone wants to say, what is the essence of the Torah, correct? And there's a replacement theology. If we say that Kabbalah doesn't exist, which is wrong, but let's say we'd say that. The Kabbalah and mysticism doesn't exist, right? Then by definition, there would be no Kabbalah and mysticism in the Talmud. Type 1. But if I said Kabbalah and mysticism does exist, and it's in every aspect of Torah, then by definition, that the Talmud would contain Kabbalah and mysticism. Type 1. And I'm not saying learning the halachas like a Kabbalist. We know that people don't do that. All I'm saying is there's a man who compiled and redacted the Talmud, and his name is Rav Ashi. And Rav Ashi either said to himself, hey, I'm Rav Ashi, and I'm writing the Talmud. And I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes and go learn some mystical things. Or did Rav Ashi say, hey, I'm Rav Ashi, I'm writing the Talmud. There's no such thing as mysticism. I'm going to stick with the halacha because that's all there is. 1 or 2. Rav Ashi had one of those discussions. Is that not true? The Talmud and the Torah either has Kabbalah as a part of it or it doesn't. 1 or 2. There's a reality. Rav Ashi either said, I'm going to go learn Kabbalah, or he never said that. Right? Let's say there's a Messiah. Have you guys ever heard of the Messiah? So Judaism either believes in Yeshu or doesn't believe in Yeshu, right? If Judaism believed in Yeshu, that means once upon a time, a bunch of rabbis said, I can't wait till Yeshu comes back. Or Yeshu has nothing to do with the Torah, and has no portion of Messiah, and no rabbi ever said, I can't wait till Yeshu comes around. 1 or 2. Is that a factual statement? So since we do know that Yeshu is not the Messiah, no rabbi ever said that, correct? No rabbi ever said anything to do with Yeshu. So any Christian argument would hold no water. No matter how hard you try to do replacement theology with Torah, you will never find Yeshu in it unless you talk to the counter missionaries, which seem to put Yeshu in more than the Christians. Type 1. Okay, so back to Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi either said there is such a thing as Kabbalah, even though maybe not in the halacha, but in the spirit of Torah. It either has in it Kabbalah or not. Is this a logical thought that I presented? There is either a concept in the world called Kabbalah or there isn't. Okay. Now let's do our replacement theology. Ready? We're not going to go back and say if there's Zohar or not. That argument is already being argued on the internet. It doesn't need help from me. The Briskers teach Svei Dinim. Type 1, because that's a fact. Did Rav Ashi, who compiled and redacted the Talmud, did he know about Svei Dinim? Or did he say, silly Briskers, in about 2,000 years from now, there's no such thing as Svei Dinim. The Torah only has one view. What do you think, guys? Is the Brisker Rav making it up? Or is the Brisker Rav revealing what was always there? I.e. in Erechim, is there 2 kinds of Ger Toshav? Or is there 1? Did Erechim have in mind Svei Dinim? Maybe they called it 20 Dinim. Maybe they called it a Big Mac. Maybe they called it the Houston Oilers. I don't know what they called it Svei Dinim back then. But what we call Svei Dinim today, 2 laws. Did Rav Ashi have that concept and pass it on to the Rishonim, Rashis, and Rambams. Therefore, the Rambam copied and pasted from Erechim. Did the Rambam know of Sfei Dinim? Would the Rambam say there's two kinds of Ger Toshav? Or would the Rambam say, silly briskers, you're making mountains out of molehills? There's only one kind of Ger Toshav, and he doesn't exist today. The non-brisk view, or the anti-brisk view, would say the Rambam was not a brisker. Replacement theology. Correct? By definition, if you say the Rambam was not a brisker, then you have done a replacement theology. If you say the Rambam was a brisker, then you've done a replacement theology. Now, you have to do a replacement theology no matter what. Because there is a Rambam. He did copy and paste, and he did spread Torah, and he either was or was not a brisker. And you can say, I don't know. But I don't know is Klippus Amalek. And that just comes from not having learned enough. So some people who would want to say that the Rambam was not a brisker, they would have to, in order for that logical statement to be true, they would have to prove it. Or have learned enough to know, no, there's no brisk here. It's like saying a Lubavitcher would say, the Rambam was a Lubavitcher chassid because he talked about Chachma, Bin, and Das. So someone that doesn't believe that would say, look, I've read the Moreh Nevuchim. Yes, the Rambam was into mysticism, but there's no evidence that he was a Lubavitch. Or that Lubavitch was somehow carrying on the tradition of the Rebbe, or the Rambam. But if someone else could argue, I see the Rambam is classic Lubavitch. But at the end of the day, the Rambam was either a Lubavitcher or he wasn't. Is that true? The Rambam either incorporated the same Torah and ideals as Lubavitch itself, or he didn't. And people can either believe that or not believe it, or stay on the fence and not know, or pursue the truth and find out one way or the other. Correct? Simply by the ways of logic. Most people are not in a position to say, yes, the Rambam was a brisker. The skeptics that believe in Machlokes will say the Rambam was not a brisker. They'll call it the Abraham Striemel argument. How do you know that Abraham was a chassid? Would a chassid walk Dalet Amos, with Abraham Avinu walk Dalet Amos without a Striemel? But then there are those that have learned and would say, it seems to me that the Brisker Rav didn't invent brisk. It seems like brisk was just perpetuated and the Brisker Rav encapsulated it. Therefore, maybe the Rambam perpetuated the same type of learning. And the Talmud had the same kind of learning. Another way of saying this is brisk learning more than one aspect of any one thing? Does it go back to Sinai? Is it an intangible part of Sinai? Can you divorce it from Sinai? That's where I'm going to leave you today. Rabbi David Katz is on record as saying that brisk is not unique to brisk. The Rambam knows that there are more than one kind of Ger Toshav. And to say that the Rambam does not hold of more than one kind of Ger Toshav, you are saying that the Rambam is not brisk. And the briskers that learn the Rambam are wrong. That's what you'd be saying. That they're wrong. Maybe the Rambam wrote as if there was one kind of Ger Toshav, but God superseded him that there is not more than one kind of Ger Toshav. Or maybe the Rambam thought there was one kind of Ger Toshav, or two kinds of Ger Toshav, and God superseded him and said, no, Rambam, I'm going to make them learn your Torah as one kind of Ger Toshav, because your intention was wrong, but I'm going to make it right. So it comes down to hashkafa, philosophical point of view, how to understand the Rambam through an approach. And that approach is derived from the tractate Erechin because Rambam copied and pasted. This entire class and discussion is nothing more than one big hashkafic view or philosophical view of the Oral Torah. Capiche? Going forward with Ger, you either have this view or that view of the Oral Torah. Ger is subject and bound to the Oral Torah. Rabbi David Katz claims a proficient knowledge of how the Oral Torah works, and that Ger Toshav, as I've taught it, is 100% accurate as the Oral Torah teaches it. It is not simple. It is complex. Tzvei Dinim is a part of it. There's no machlokus. It's incredibly diverse. It's incredibly difficult. And those that have learned it, and there are those out there, are all in unison of how it works. And it seems that those who are against it either don't know how the Oral Torah works or haven't learned enough of it or enough of Ger to validate its validation. So I will leave it with you. The sad part is, I know that this is right. And those that are against it, they know that they're wrong. And there's a captive audience. And that captive audience will most likely never get the yeshiva to actually find out for themselves. So it becomes a belief. Do I believe in the Sanhedrin people that have never learned and are a scam artist organization doing cheesy online conversions that go against God and his Torah? Or do we go with the minority of people that get brisk in learning the Oral Torah and say there's something going on there? And it's an unfair thing because how would you ever know unless you know? And the answer is God puts the truth on our hearts. So before you is a tree of life or a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And that is represented in this discussion a true mechanism of the true Oral Torah or a McDonald's version of the Oral Torah. I am telling you that Ger Toshav is the essence of the goodness of the Oral Torah. And the naysayers out there, when you understand what their pushback is, in order to prove their side correct, they have to fabricate and falsify the Oral Torah. The Oral Torah is a united style learned by yeshivas. Thus, Ger can be learned anywhere, anytime through the Oral Torah when done through correct Oral Torah. And the entire debate of Noahide and Ger and conversion and Jewish souls comes down to kind of two things. I mean, Kabbalah is a big part of it. Those are against Kabbalah don't have a chance because Kabbalah is real and it opens the mind and develops the mind, but we won't get into that discussion. Do you know how to learn is the often spoken mantra. Another way of saying that is, do you know the Oral Torah? Do you know how it works? Ger Toshav is so great because the Oral Torah involved in it is fantastic. And that's the bottom line. Those that are against it, they're not only is their Oral Torah horrible, it's not even Oral Torah. It's made up for a YouTube video. Now, really, I shouldn't even be on YouTube. But who knew that the Nazarites of Antarctica would wake up one day? And they have. And as far as our discussion is concerned, they're just called Ger. And that's where I'll end this class. So, My advice to you is, because we don't take away people's free will, and you have the right to choose, and you will choose. If I have any good advice to give, it's an oral Torah issue. I advise you to think along those lines and press your teacher to get into the oral Torah elements of it. And if the oral Torah is ignored or perverted in that process, you are not standing before a competent and loyal student of the oral Torah. You're standing before a con artist, a scam artist, and a lowlife. You can quote me on that. If you find someone willing and able to go into the oral Torah and not spin it, that's a kosher rabbi, it's a kosher source. Kind of like the Matrix, right? Before you use the red pill, the blue pill. Ger is good. The oral Torah is good. What makes a ger, as the Brisker Rav says, is he chooses to learn his 7 laws through the oral Torah, dafka. And that's what we're here to do. There are those that will understand the oral Torah, even though they never went to yeshiva. They'll understand in their heart that it's what it is. It is the Sinai experience, and they'll be able to recognize it. And when you recognize the tree of life, you reject the tree of knowledge, the perversion of the oral Torah. By the way, Kabbalah and Panemius Torah is an aspect of the oral Torah. Midrash and Agadata, also an aspect of the oral Torah. This entire sugya that we're in is called the oral Torah. What is a rabbi? You'll say, today we have no real rabbis. That's partially true. But we do have a second-tier rabbi system that is built and predicated on one principle. Does this guy know how to learn the oral Torah? And that doesn't come with credentials in terms of, well, he said that I'm good, and it's a reality. You either know how to learn or you don't. It's not a contest how many people agree with me. What matters is who agrees and who disagrees. If a bunch of counter missionaries disagree, that doesn't matter. What do they say is a lion doesn't care about or wolf or whatever, doesn't care about the sheep, right? LeBron James doesn't care about a YouTube armchair quarterback. There are plenty of oral Torah scholars out there. They've always existed. They know how the oral Torah works. I suggest you find, wherever you are, a representative of the true oral Torah. And, Jacques has always said it, the Dinim class is the way to go. If you want to stay safe and with Noahide, Mazel Tov. But just remember, everything about conversion or Noahide was derived from a ger source. You can quote me on that. Thank you for listening. Be well.